I'm Michael Barone.
And I'm Tim Carney.
And Tim, thank you for coming and subbing for Byron York today. And we've got a big day up on Capitol Hill. And one of the biggest topics of controversy and interest is the Iran agreement that was announced by President Obama and his administration.
A comprehensive long-term deal with Iran that will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon. This deal demonstrates that American diplomacy can bring about real and meaningful change. Change that makes our country and the world safer and more secure.
Critics are saying, look, you're not stopping the enrichment of uranium. As you said, there was a goal last year, in 2013, you're not stopping the centrifuges. You're releasing $150 billion to Iran. And
there's no spot inspections. There's warning before the inspections.
Well, and they have a 24-day limit before inspections. Now, even I could clean up my workspace and get incriminating evidence out of that in that time, and I think the Iranians are capable of it. Underneath, I think there's a basic disagreement here between the president and a significant majority in Congress, which is the president, as Michael Duran argued in Mosaic magazine, says, look, we can trust Iran. They will be our friends. They will change their attitude if we enter into this agreement with them. And I think it's fair to say most people, most Americans who've thought about it, most members of Congress are skeptical. What are the chances that Congress can block this agreement?
To block it, they would need to not just pass legislation blocking it, of course. They would need to then override Obama's certain veto of the legislation. So they need 2/3 of both chambers. In the House, that's reachable. In the Senate, I don't think so. You need more than half of the Democrats to come along in that.
Well, you
case.
need 13 Senate Democrats.
You need 13 Senate Democrats to come along with the House, with the Senate.
Assuming all the Republicans.
If you get all the Senate Republicans, and you have something close to that, but the question is, does a lame duck president have any power to just say, look, you can't totally throw us under the bus on something that's so important to the president's legacy? Does he have any clout left? Especially with Reid stepping down, it will be tougher, but it's got to seem if he's got any clout left, he can hang on just for that one vote.
Well, he probably not well advised to do what he did on the trade agreement when he came up to Capitol Hill and called the House Democrats that you're just petty and political minded and so forth if you don't go along with me on this. No. I mean, presidents usually win these arguments by going to the sort of last identified holdout votes and saying, look, the interests of the country would really be gravely affected if you don't do this. Plus, I've got a little something in the budget for you on the side.
On foreign policy, presidents always get a little more leeway from Congress, especially in their own party. So that's why I think Obama's going to win, and they're not going to be able to throw out this deal.
Of course, that's going to remain a continuing issue because of the fact that this is not a treaty. As the president has stated, he couldn't get 2/3 approval in the Senate for a treaty. That means it's not the law of the land. The next president could take a different view. And we have heard from Hillary Clinton. She came up to speak to the House Democrats and said, hey, I'm full-throated in support of this. Yeah. Now, polling evidence is sort of ambivalent. On the one hand, you've got some results that say, gee, most people are happy to see some kind of an agreement, some kind of rapprochement. You also have even bigger majorities who say, I don't trust Iran.
And I think the last point I'll make on this is, it might not be a question of trusting Iran as it is, we don't know how weak the White House thinks its current hand is. Will the sanctions just dissolve? You need everybody to play part in the sanctions for them to work. So if the sanctions were going to slip away, if Russia or Europe was going to undermine them in the future, then the White House may have felt it was dealing from a losing hand and is willing to take something rather than nothing when the sanctions fall apart.
Argument that the White House has made is if we didn't get a deal, it would mean war. Yep. Russia's already selling arms to Iran, and the UK, German, French firms are perhaps eager to get in on the bazaar. Yep. Well advised to negotiate carefully with the Iranians, but that's going there. So is this a handicap for Hillary Clinton 2016, assuming she's the nominee?
I think it is. I think a lot of Obama's foreign policy will be a handicap for Hillary. I think that when people talk about Benghazi, it's sort of part of a broader issue of the Libya intervention, that regime change not having gone well, back and forth on Syria, perceived weakness that leads to ISIS expanding. And I think this too will be part of a handicap as people see Obama as both sort of weak and incompetent on it. I think Hillary, especially having been the Secretary of State, this will hang on her shoulders.
Well, she was Secretary of State for 4 years. She had that famous, perhaps mislabeled reset button with Russia, which doesn't seem to produce the hoped-for results. On another front, Hillary Clinton gave one of her rare speeches on policy. She had a lot to say, not much of it was very specific, a sort of a potpourri. One of the things she did say is we want to encourage unions.
Republican governors like Scott Walker have made their names stomping on workers' rights, and practically all the Republican candidates hope to do the same as president. I will fight back against these mean-spirited, misguided attacks.
Kind of veiled language, but it's continue the policy of the Obama administration. Private sector union membership has not been rising, has been falling for 2 generations. But one of the areas, of course, where unions are strong, American Federation of Teachers, the teacher union endorsed Hillary Clinton, is public sector workers. And there's a candidate that entered the Republican race this week who's got rather a different point of view on that.
We are so honored to have you join with us here today as we officially announce that we are running to serve as your President of the United States of America.
So Scott Walker was called, I think, a human disgrace or a disgrace to the human race by Richard Trumka, the union boss. And Walker is, he was made by the unions. Somebody, I think you had David Axelrod saying, you know, thanks Wisconsin Democrats for making Scott Walker the national hero he is to conservatives by going ahead and doing the recall, having before that occupied the state capitol to try to
violent and always dirty and litter prone. Left-wing demonstrators.
Attempt to block his bill that took away some of the collective bargaining rights of government employee unions. And that fight has really, that's what he's running on now. He's saying, you know, the Tea Partiers, they come here and fight. And some of these establishment Republicans, they have a record of winning elections. I'm a guy who fights and I win. And so he was really set up by the unions for exactly that very powerful line.
And he's saying, look, by changing the terms of collective bargaining, we've enabled school districts to save money, to hire more teachers, to spend more money. And by the way, when you make it voluntary to join the teachers union, a whole lot of them don't think it's worth the dues money. Another issue Hillary Clinton touched on in her speech was trade. And she said forthrightly that she's for good trade agreements and against bad trade agreements. She didn't say what the Trans-Pacific Partnership was or anything of that nature. One of the issues, though, and you have written about this at least occasionally, is the ExportImport Bank, whose authorization ended on June 30th.
So it's now in liquidation, and Hillary is a big supporter of the Export-Import Bank. She said in the Senate that she wanted to put it on steroids. When she was Secretary of State, she told the Senate
she's going to be in trouble with some athletic commission.
Bernie Sanders, running from her left, opposes the Export-Import Bank as corporate welfare. It gives taxpayer-backed financing to foreign buyers of U.S.-made goods, mostly Boeing jets.
Which, of course, Delta Airlines says, look, you're giving Emirates Airline, based in the United Arab Emirates, a better deal on the jets than we can get from Boeing. That's not really fair to we hire a lot of people in America here at Delta.
Yeah, and I think almost every Republican presidential candidate has come out against the Export-Import Bank, with the exception of Lindsey Graham. I don't think Donald Trump's against it, so maybe...
Well, Boeing has a big plant in Charleston, South
Carolina. Jim DeMint was about the only South Carolina Republican to firmly come out and oppose ExIm, and he's out of the Senate at this point.
Question.
Yes.
Is the Export-Import Bank dead? Is Fred Hochberg out of a job?
It's dead for now. It's in liquidation, so Hochberg still gets a paycheck. We don't have to worry about his well-being at the moment. But the question is, will they bring it back to life? And what Ted Cruz said today is it's all resting on Mitch McConnell's shoulders. Mitch McConnell could theoretically block a vote to bring it back. If there's a floor vote, it probably will pass. There would be enough votes to bring it back.
Well, the irony of your position in opposing ExIm Bank is there are probably majorities in both houses, both chambers of Congress to reauthorize. The president's ready to sign it in a minute. So in this case, you're against the will of the Congress prevailing.
Will of the Congress prevailing, yeah. But and the question is there going to be a vote? And McConnell and Boehner could block a vote. And the question is, do they want to?
Well, stay tuned. That's all for this week, but we'll be with you next week. And thanks to Tim Carney once again.
Thank you.